Adding a stream, pond or waterfall to your yard is a great way to enhance the landscape and improve your local biodiversity. There's lots of awesome builders that showcase their really cool projects here on YouTube. But my focus is more on projects that the average person can tackle without breaking the bank. My name is Kev, and the aim of my channel is to help people build and maintain ponds and water gardens without spending a fortune. If that sounds like something that interests you, you might like to subscribe and visit my website ozponds.com. So in this video I want to talk about some basic principles when it comes to building streams and waterfalls. Probably the first question people ask is, what should you build a stream or waterfall out of? The easiest method is using a liner. My preferred type of liner is EPDM rubber. It's stretchy, strong and easy to work with. The liner is going to help you retain the water where you want it. You'll then add your rock, pebble and plants over the top of the liner to naturalize it. You can also use geotextile fabric over the top and below the liner to help protect it. And in some areas where animals digging could be a problem, people use a fabric covered with concrete. The level of protection for the liner will vary based on the use of the stream, creek or waterfall, the type of rock you'll be using and the condition of the ground. Liner is probably going to be the most expensive part of any pond, stream or waterfall project, so you want to make sure it's well protected. The next most overlooked part is the flow rate of the pump. If the flow rate is too low, the water will disappear amongst the rocks and the pebble and you won't see it. If it's too powerful, the stream might back up and overflow, causing you to lose water. I have a general rule that I need at least 4,000 litres of water for a stream or waterfall that's 30 centimetres wide. That's about 500 gallons per foot of width for those in the US. And that's the minimum. That's going to give you a very subdued, subtle sound. For something more elaborate or you want fast moving, thicker water, you're going to 3 times the volume. Well, of course you could even go more. Just remember that you really want to make sure that the edges of the liner are high enough to retain all that water and the splash that it's going to create. The more water movement and splash you have, the more water you will lose to evaporation. So that's something to keep in mind if you live in warm, windy areas or where water's scarce. I recently created a video on the types of evaporation rates that are average, so I'll put that in the description. I've personally kept my streams quite subdued, as summers are quite warm here, and that often coincides with us receiving the least amount of rainfall. It also allows me to save money on pump running costs, and naturally the more water flow, the more energy the pumps will consume. My preference for pond pumps is low volt, variable speed submersibles. I've got some links on the models I like over on ozponds.com, and I'll link that page in the description as well. When selecting a pond pump, you'll need something that can pump the water over a long distance and at the head height that you require. The length of the pipe required to pump water from point A to point B will create some friction, and that needs to be factored in as well. I like to add 10 centimeters for every meter that the water travels, and when I say I add that to the head height. All pumps will tell you how much water you can expect the pump to deliver at various head heights. So you need to factor in how far the water will travel, how high the water will travel, how wide you want the stream or waterfall, and this will then let you decide on your pump. And this is probably a good time to mention that I do have a downloadable cheat sheet that I use to help me size my pumps, my filters, the amount of liner, etc. when I'm building my ponds. It also has links to other various videos that show how the different components come together, and again that's available over at ozponds.com. So once you know how much water you have to work with, you can start to decide how it's all going to come together. You can get as creative or as basic as you like, and during this stage it's a great idea to take inspiration from all those professionals that are showcasing their work. Probably my favourite for stream and waterfall inspiration is Jack from Atlantis Water Gardens. Him and his team have really perfected their craft. But here's a few quick design principles that seem to be universal amongst the best pond builders. Number 1, keep any waterfall scaled within the landscape. You might think you want a nice high waterfall, but if you have a flat yard, it'll look silly if a hill just pops out of nowhere. But if you have a natural hillside to work with, that's fine. A lot of houses here in Australia are built on slabs, and the house side is cut into a hill. And that creates the perfect opportunity to have a waterfall or stream with quite striking drops. But if not, there's nothing wrong with slow moving, subtle streams with lots of plants, and that's what the gentle slope of my land called for, so that's what I did. Number 2, don't use a heap of rocks to create the waterfalls. You really only need 3 rocks, 2 frame rocks and a spill rock. You can even use 1 or 2 if you have a rock or 2 with natural high edges. It does look a bit off when there's lots of little rocks stacked together to make a waterfall. It also makes it harder to construct. To force the water over the rocks, you'll use an expandable foam. I've used both the generic foam and the special waterfall foam. Both work, but the special foam is of course more expensive. And the foam isn't waterproof, so don't try and use it thinking that it'll force all water over the rocks, or you can use it to fix leaks. It's very important that the liner is what's holding all the water in. The foam is simply a useful tool to fill in the gaps between the 2 or 3 rocks that you're using to create the waterfall. Again, watching a few videos by the professionals and you'll see plenty of tips on how to effectively use the foam and a few rocks. Number 3, create interest with twists and turns. Don't have all the waterfalls just like steps, have them at varying angles, and if possible, create curves in the stream. This will mean you'll need a lot wider liner, but it'll give you a lot more creative freedom. I wish I used a wider liner on this stream. And plenty of liner will also allow you to come out quite wide around waterfalls with lots of water or big drops. These areas are going to create lots of splashing, and you definitely want that splashing to be contained within the liner. Number 4, use lots of different size rock and pebble. Don't try and use all one size, again it looks weird and man-made. You don't even need a heap of really big rocks, but you'll want a few. Aim to place the larger rocks at areas where the stream turns or to frame the waterfall. This is often how it goes in nature, with the water choosing the path of least resistance. You can also incorporate logs and large branches as part of your hardscape and to hide the liner. Number 5, soften the edges with plants. You can use both aquatic and terrestrials to naturalize the edges. The aquatic plants can go inside the liner where they can access the water that's flowing through the rock and the pebble. And for the terrestrials, you can use ground covers to soften the rockwork, and larger trees and shrubs can be used to frame certain views that you want to highlight, such as waterfalls. Number 6, if you can, position the best views so that you can see them from inside the house, or at the very least, areas where you often spend a lot of time. Number 7, keep the liner higher than you think. The most common cause of a leak isn't a puncture in the liner, it's a low edge. Number 8, if you are creating a pondless system or plan on a decent sized stream, spend some time working out your water in motion. I recently did a video on water in motion, so I'll link that down below as well. And I'm probably missing a bunch of other valuable tips, but if you watch a heap of the inspiration type videos, you'll get a ton more ideas. I find that the most important part is really making sure you have enough water to work with. And that's the beauty of these variable speed pumps, as you can oversize them and then dial them back on a simple control panel. You don't need to worry about regulating valves or anything like that. And if you want to see how any of my streams or ponds were constructed, you'll find them by scrolling through my previous uploads. Obviously mine aren't as spectacular as the professionals, but they are DIY and budget friendly. I hope this video and the resources I've linked have been helpful. If it was, feel free to tickle the thumbs up button and check out ozponds.com. You'll find a lot of helpful content over there. As always, thanks for watching. See ya.